In this video, I will be making this wire rose coin bead pendant. For this design, I am using 2 of these mother of pearl coin beads. Ensure that the hole in the bead is big enough to fit the 20 gauge base wires. I am also using 4 of these oval shaped beads. I am using 5 base wires. Line up the wires and mark 2 inches or 5 centimeters from the ends. I am using a piece of masking tape to hold the wires, lining the marks up with the edge of the tape. I am using 30 gauge weaving wire. You can use a slightly thicker wire if you prefer. I am measuring 20 inches from the end of the 60-inch length of wire. I am just making a bend in the wire to mark this point. Use the 20-inch section for weaving this section. For the weaving pattern, start by wrapping twice around wires 1 and 2. Now wrap twice around wires 2 and 3. Wrap twice around wires 3 and 4. Wrap twice around wires 4 and 5. Bring the weaving wire around the back of the wires and back to the bottom and repeat the pattern. Gently start bending the woven wires to a similar curve to the edge of the coin bead. Take the 2nd and 4th wires and mark 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. Cut the wires at the marks. Take round nose pliers and start forming a loop at the end of the wire. I am cutting off a tiny amount from the end, as this part of the wire can remain a little bit straight when you make the loop, and it will prevent the coil from being perfectly round. I switch to pliers with a flat nose to continue rolling the wire into a flat coil. Repeat with the other wire facing the coil in the other direction. Wrap the weaving wire around just the lower of the remaining wires. Weave until level with the top of the coil. Add an oval bead, threading both the weaving wire and the base wire through the hole of the bead. I do this because I want the end of the weaving wire to be hidden inside the bead where it will not become a snagging point. Push the bead down a little and cut off the excess weaving wire. Trim the wire, leaving approximately 1/4 inch. Bend the end of the wire into a small loop. Take a 15-inch length of weaving wire and find the middle. Wrap the middle of the weaving wire around one of the remaining wires. Use one half of the weaving wire to wrap one wire and the other half for the other wire. Wrap the middle wire. Wrap until reaching the point halfway along the lower bead. Add an oval bead and finish the wire in the same way as previous. Now wrap the upper wire in the same way. This time don't trim off the excess weaving wire. Wrap the weaving wire a few times around the loop. Now remove the tape. Take the outer of the unwoven wires. At the back, bend the wire towards the last loop. Thread a coin bead onto the wire. Position the bead and bend the wire over the back of the bead. Bend the loop to meet the point where the wire exits the hole in the coin bead. Use the weaving wire to attach the loop to the wire that exits the bead. Wrap the weaving wire around the wire and through the loop a few times for a secure connection. Thread the weaving wire back through the oval bead and remove the excess. Bend the back wire into its original position. Weave a couple of rotations of the pattern to hold the wire in position. Separate the two right-hand wires. For the next part, the weaving wire may get in the way, so I am loosely coiling it around the other wires to keep it out of the way. I will now coil these wires into a rose shape. Bend the first wire into a small loop. Follow with the other wire. Continue coiling both wires around the loops. At regular intervals, lift the leading wire and allow the trailing wire to pass underneath and become the leading. Allow the shape to become a little untidy for a more natural look. Your rose should be approximately 3/8 of an inch in diameter. You can use pliers to gently squeeze the sides to make the shape more regular. Slightly lift the edge of the rose to bring the wires behind and back into position with the other wires. I have unravelled my weaving wire and will now continue weaving the wires together. I have woven for approximately 1/4 of an inch. When you look at your wires, you will notice that you now have 2 longer wires. Separate these wires. I am once again moving my weaving wire out of the way. I will now use these wires to form another rose. Make sure that you are coiling these wires in a clockwise direction, finishing with the wires between the 2 roses. Bring all the wires back together. Separate the longest wire and bend it around to the left of the top rows. Measure ½ inch along the wire from the top of the rows. Slightly bend the wire before the mark. Bend the wire at the mark. Gently squeeze the wire to tighten the bend. Bend the wire to match the other side to form a leaf shape. I have a 22-inch length of weaving wire for the leaf. Leave a couple of inches of excess at the point of the leaf. Start by wrapping twice around the upper part of the leaf. Now wrap twice around the lower part of the leaf. Go back to the upper part and wrap twice, and then back to the lower part. Continue the pattern while maintaining the shape of the leaf. Remove the excess at the end of the weaving wire, but leave the extra couple of inches at the start. Bend the wire at the end of the leaf back into position with the other wires. Weave the wires together to bring all the wires back together. Take the 2 left-hand wires and bend them into another rose, working in an anti-clockwise direction. Make this rose a little smaller than the others. Bring the wires around the back of the rose to join the others. There should be approximately 2 inches remaining on these wires. Bring the wires together and continue weaving. Take the left-hand wire and trim to 1 inch. Bend this wire into a flat coil. I am positioning the bead and lining the hole up with the tip of the leaf. The bead should sit so that the bottom shouldn't be lower than the bottom of the leaf. Have a look at where the other end of the bead hole lines up with the wires. Continue weaving the wires up to the point where the hole lines up. At the back of the pendant, take the second wire and bend it towards the leaf point. Thread the bead onto the wire. Where the wire exits the hole, bend it over the back of the bead. Take the excess weaving wire on the leaf and use it to connect the wire exiting the bead. Thread the weaving wire through a gap in the weave at the tip of the leaf. Wrap the wire around the bead wire and through the leaf a couple more times for a secure connection. Finish by threading the weaving wire through the leaf a couple more times, then remove the excess by rotating it until it snaps off. Bend the wire back into position. Continue weaving. This is a 10-inch length of weaving wire. I am anchoring the wire by first wrapping it twice around the second wire from the left. Now I am wrapping the wire around the left-hand wire. I have woven for 5/16 of an inch. Add an oval bead in the same way as previously, leaving the excess wire intact. Bend the wire so that the loop sits at the edge of the bead. Continue weaving the remaining 3 wires. The weaving pattern is still the same, just with fewer wires. I will now remove the tail of the previous weaving wire. These wires will become the bail, so I will need to make sure that the bail will line up with the centre of the pendant. Where the wires line up with the centre, bend them upwards. Continue weaving. I am adding 20 inches of weaving wire. Always start and finish with the weaving wire trapped between two of the base wires. Continue the weaving pattern. Hold the weaving wire tails at the base and rotate until they break. Because the wires are trapped securely between the base wires, they should break off cleanly and you shouldn't be able to feel them. I have woven the bale for 3/4 of an inch. I'm using this small screwdriver as a mandrel to help me shape the bale. Bend the bale to the back. Bring both of the longer wires to the front and leave the shorter wire at the back. Wrap the weaving wire around the shorter wire. Where the wire meets the wire crossing the back of the bead, bend it up towards the oval bead. Connect the short wire to the wire crossing the bead by wrapping them both together. Where the wire meets the loop at the end of the oval bead, bend it downwards. Use the weaving wire to connect the wire and the bead loop. Wrap the weaving wire around the loop a few times and thread the weaving wire back through the hole in the oval bead and remove the excess. Trim the base wire short and make a small loop. I am bending the remaining wires into another rose. To finish, trim the wires and tuck the cut ends around to the back of the frame. Now just make sure that your beads are lined up and your pendant is sitting flat and you are finished. Thank you for viewing. Please join me for my next video.